hop in. But today we are primarily going to focus on the wholesaling bill that just got signed on Monday. So I'm just trying to gauge the room a little bit. Who here is aware of the wholesaling bill? Can you raise your hands or your virtual hand? Okay, I see some people. Okay, who here is not at all familiar with the new wholesale law that's come through? Okay. All right, so we're going to spend some time today talking about what it is, how our attorney is viewing it from his consultation he's done with us, and what it means for you guys. For those of you who are familiar with the wholesaling law, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as we talk about it. But I'm just going to start by just kind of sharing a little bit about what John Banjak shared with us. So, for those of you who don't know, John Banjak, he's an owner in True Title and has been an attorney for a long time. And back in the day, he actually used to work in the Attorney General's office. At this point in time, the Attorney General's office has given no insight into how they enforce this law. So this is just John's perspective, but he has a really good perspective as someone in title who's very familiar with investors, has experience working in the Attorney General's office. So anyways, I just figured I'd share what the law is and how he's perceiving it, and then we can have a conversation about it afterwards. So basically, the wholesale bill is what he would call an ornament on a Christmas tree, meaning it was just kind of added in to a bigger law. So it's just one small piece of a much bigger law. And if I say anything wrong and you guys are aware of this, please correct me. But it's one piece of a larger bill, but it does directly affect wholesalers in the act of wholesaling. So since it's just kind of like an ornament, it's really short. John actually read all the language to us. It's just on like a few slides. And I'm not going to read all of this to you guys because you would probably want to take a nap. But if you want to look it up, you can look up the law. It's very, very, very short. And what it says is that it applies just to residential real estate. So that would be a single to four family property. And it defines a wholesaler as someone who is getting paid or getting valuable consideration. So maybe bargaining for something, I don't know. If you are assigning or novating something tied to residential real estate. It does not include if you have a like relationship, a direct, it says third degree of a word I cannot pronounce, but basically if you're assigning this to someone who's a relative of yours, it doesn't apply to that. Or if you're an owner into another entity. So if you're trying to change ownership from one of your LLCs to another LLC, it doesn't apply to that. But it affects novations and wholesale deals. And what it says is if you have the intent to novate or assign, and the keyword is assign a contract, you have to get a 14-day pre-contract disclosure signed. And they give you that exact disclosure that you have to put in to sign. And you have to get that pre-contract disclosure signed at least 14 days before you can then enter into a contract with someone. Is everyone following me there? If you're going to assign a contract or do a novation. It even has like specific things about it, like it has to be at least a 12-point font and stuff like that. And you can't get into a contract until 14 days has passed with that disclosure. So it gives the Attorney General's office more rights to go after wholesalers. It lets them, like, it gives the AG's office the ability to, before any lawsuit has been filed, start subpoenaing people and gathering information. John kind of went into like what the costs would be, but basically it just lets them kind of dig around into your business more before there's even a lawsuit that's filed. And it does, if you're like found guilty of this, it's considered a Class E felony and there are fines. So, um, it also gives um, the seller's rights to your earnest money if you back out and you don't have this disclosure signed beforehand. So all of that is the long of the short of what that bill says. Everyone follow what I'm saying there? Jake and Casey and Rachel, who were all in. Did I miss anything there? Okay. So there's been a lot of rumors about what this means for wholesaling. The biggest thing that I took away from this conversation is assignments are probably going to go away and become a thing of the past. People, double closes, totally fine. So, like Bryson, I know you wholesale. If you double close, no problem. Just no assignments. If you don't get this 14-day pre-disclosure signed. Um, There also is the thing we don't have real clarity on is, let's say you're going to double close, uh, but you're double closing, you're wholesaling it. Can you blast your deals, or does blasting those deals show intent? So I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if wholesalers are going to blast deals if it's um, I don't know what that means, honestly. How you show intent, what they consider intent, if you're always willing to close on the deal. Does that mean you need this disclosure or not? I'm not sure. Um, so I think that and it sounds like, so we got Casey, Jake, Rachel, and I got a group of a bunch of wholesalers in a room last week to meet with John B. and Jack to discuss this. And everyone seems to be taking a different perspective. Some are being more conservative, some are going to be a little more aggressive. I do think some of the bigger wholesalers are going to be a little more conservative because they maybe have some bigger targets than, let's say, some smaller people potentially. But smaller people, I think, are also concerned because they don't have the resources maybe that some of the bigger people have. So it's been interesting to have conversations with people. Andy, I see your hand raised. What question or thought do you have? He says 1 second. He's unmuting.
Yeah, sorry about that. My phone wasn't working.
You're
So,
good.
is it the title companies that are going to be holding folks accountable, or is it
Nope.
no? Okay,
Nope.
so okay, I'm just trying to figure out where the speed bumps might come into play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do think the intent, the people who wrote this bill clearly don't understand wholesaling. If they'd understood wholesaling, this bill would be written very differently. The Attorney General's office doesn't understand wholesaling at all. If they did, this would again be very different. I think the biggest issue is there's a lot of bad wholesaling practices out there right now. Specifically, non-local wholesalers that are offering way too much for a house they know they can't get for it, shopping it, going back to a seller, bumping down the price, extending out closing, and that is the people are trying to give the Attorney General's office more power to go after that kind of bad practice. I think if you are a wholesaler with good intentions, you're upfront with your sellers with what you're trying to do. You're not playing this game of, I'm going to pretend I'm going to offer you this amount of money that I know you're never going to get. I'm going to keep extending. I'm going to be clouding your title when you decide to go with someone else because you don't want to lower my price by 120 grand. If you're doing stuff like that, to be honest, the Attorney General's office is going to have a lot more power probably to go after you. You have more concern. If you're not doing any of that and you're treating sellers with integrity and you're being honest and upfront of, I want to help you, I want to get to this price, but I don't know if I can get to this price. I think it's going to come down to that. Um, I do think something that I feel that really I want to give credit to Jake on is our industry has never been targeted in Missouri. There's really been no laws against wholesaling, period. And now all of a sudden, we do have a target on our backs. People are paying attention to us. And what's also been interesting is there's no one there to lobby for real estate investors. The only lobby that was there was New Western's lobbyist, from my understanding. And to be frank with you guys, I don't really want New Western being our lobby. They're just not local. They're all over the place. So I think I don't know what it means. I think right now this thing is like really like a nothing burger. It doesn't really equate to much. But I do think it's important to know that lawmakers are becoming more aware of who we are. They're wanting to regulate stuff. And I don't know if we really want them in our business, especially when they're writing laws that they don't even know what they are doing. uh, so that's my takeaway.
Can I add something to that? I
Yes.
I think I know what's going on because I've been sitting in on non-for-profit meetings with the Urban League and the LRA. And
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing is they're starting to go after these wholesalers that are getting online and saying we can sell you a house for $2,500 down and so much a month. I know for a fact that that's why this legislation went through because they're trying to stop the practice of targeting low income people. I don't know if you've noticed on the news, they've had it all over there about this. So they're going after people who are targeting low income.
That though, that this bill does not address or touch anything like that. I
So
hear what
that's
you're
the
saying
slow
there.
flip.
That's the slow flip. This bill doesn't even touch or address or speak about the slow flip at all.
So you don't think that this has anything to do with the
I
target?
100% know it doesn't have anything to
Okay,
do with that. Yep.
good to know because I wondered that.
No, it has nothing to do with the slow flip. I do know all of a sudden I've been seeing stuff about the slow flip, and to me but that's not related at all
Well,
to this.
this is also one of those things, like, Suzanne alluded to, Jake alluding to, of, this is now our business, real estate, is now under the magnifying glass of the Attorney General's office. So it starts with this wholesaling bill, but then could eventually lead to other areas, including seller finance, slow flips, all of these other things. So it's something to be aware of that's coming down the pipe, and whether or not it's including those things. And I'm with you, Marquita. Some of these slow flips, they are predatory. But that doesn't mean every one of them are. Just like in the wholesaling business, there are some wholesalers that are predatory. Not all of them are. So we don't want the baby to be thrown out with the bathwater here. There are good operators in this space, and we want those operators to still be able to continue. We'd love to be able to get the bad ones out, but we'll see what kind of happens.
Isaiah first and then Andy.
Yeah, so here's my question because of that 14-day, I guess it probably maybe lead to a second one. So if the 14-day window, is it something like you cannot do anything with that house for 14 days? Because that's what,
Can't even
okay.
get it under contract.
Okay, so you can, oh, okay, so you have 14, wait, hold on. So you have 14 days to get it under contract, or you cannot do anything for those 14
You have to
days?
You have,
sign the
this is why this will
disclosure.
never be followed. Like, no one's going to do this. What you'd have to do to assign a contract, not to double close, to assign a contract or to do an ovation, is you have to meet with a seller, say, I'm never going to close on this house. I need to assign this house. So I need you to sign this disclosure that says I'm going to assign it. Now you're going to wait 14 days and then you can get it under contract with the seller.
Okay. Um, so here's my, oh man, I was trying to figure out how to formulate this. So here's what would be my next question for that. Since that be the case, then what about for and when Casey mentioned like, okay, well then they might try to go after sellers finance just to try to make this all legal and things like that. Like what else could they do to try to potentially stop wholesaling? And would there be somebody to lobby for the real estate investors? Because if they're coming after the low income areas, and I see why they're doing it, because these houses, they just don't make sense to fix in those city areas where tornadoes have come and ripped them out clean. And whoever said that there was a thing in the news about whatever it was that was going on, well, now they just receive money to. Well, basically, my point is that like, what's the whole deal there, and is there some kind of like power play that could be happening?
So I so there's a couple of issues I think you need to separate out. They cannot just go after stuff without laws being put into place. So like right now as it stands, it's just the wholesaling and and wholesaling has a legal definition to it. So we in our space we call wholesaling basically anytime you take possession of a property in a contract, shop that contract, either sell it or double close it. That's what we think is wholesaling. How Missouri law is defining wholesaling is completely different. So we got to look through the thing through the lens of the law. So if you double close, you're not a wholesaler according to Missouri law. If you are in the way things currently stand, but if you're trying to sign a property and that's your exit strategy, you have to get that 2 week disclosure signed up front. And if you don't do that, you don't really have a legal contract. I mean, and again, like I forget who asked, Andy, I think title companies aren't going to enforce it. So I guess you could try to be sneaky and push it through, backdate the disclosure. There's all kinds of ways to probably circumnavigate it. But you're kind of really opening yourself up to tremendous amounts of litigation if they find out that's what you did. The We sat down with one of the state representatives. I'm not going to say his name because I know him personally and I don't want to say anything disparaging. But it's kind of shocking how ignorant they are about our industry. Like it kind of made me want to vomit a little bit, to be honest with you guys. Like these people are writing laws, or sorry, voting on laws. They don't write any laws. Lobbyists write laws. They don't know a lick about our industry, and they overwhelmingly were in support of this. When we sat down and talked to him, he was like, "Well, I wish you guys would have reached out to me sooner." Because they don't know the stories. They don't understand that there's people like this whole Missouri. This law is attached to the Missouri Merchandising Protections Act. Okay, and so that's I don't know how Banjack described it, Suzanne, but that's how it's linked together with everything. Um, but there's times where us as investors or wholesalers, whatever you want to call us, like we are legitimately helping people out of a bad spot. And we shared some stories with this guy, and it's like things people don't the public doesn't think about like what goes inside of these houses, and the like kind of like family pains and things like that occur. Um, so we shared a few stories with him and so forth, and most people are just kind of I don't know how you put it, but most people are just like they're familiar with like you list a house, it's retail, and somebody with 30-year financing buys it, but they're not used to the scenario of like why somebody would need to sell their house quickly for cash, trading their equity for speed, convenience, and certainty. They don't understand that. So yeah, there needs to be. I totally agree. There needs to be some sort of body that, and that's what I'm kind of like. I guess I'm passionate about right now. There needs to be some sort of body politic that, like, I'm not talking about a full fledged lobby, but something to where if something like this happens again, they give you a call and get your input on it. Because I'll tell you right now, they don't understand our business, like Suzanne said, and we have to educate them. It's our job to do that. I feel like so. That's my quick rant. I hope that answers your question, Isaiah.
And one thing, maybe this is pertinent or
Yes, it did.
not. In the meetings when they talked about this, it sounds like when this was presented, there was a spectrum from we want to ban wholesaling completely all the way to just a disclosure. And it sounded like everybody was leaning towards just a disclosure. And then there is a company that is nationwide that did have a lobby and they were heard. And unfortunately, those people pissed off a lot of those folks. So we went from almost having just on it's just a disclosure side. They actually walked it back to where it was because of that, the lobby. So that's where, there needs to be good people with good businesses representing, these good businesses from a grassroots effort. So
I
we'll
know
see how that
Travis.
takes shape.
I know Travis had a question, but if I could real quick, I think there's just like certain practices inside contracts, like Suzanne was pointing out, that we just need to stop doing. And if people are doing it, like I don't know, we need to like politely tell them that hey, this isn't the best way of doing things. Because guess what? Just because double closing is fine now, if you're still like locking up a deal at this is actually a real world scenario. Somebody locked up a deal at $200,000, shopped at 180. They just wanted to control the deal, knowing full well they couldn't pay that price. We got to stop that. If those people can keep doing that and double close, eventually the AG's office is going to go, oh, we need to do something about the double closes too. And so I want to get ahead. I think everybody needs to realize we need to get ahead of this stuff because it's the direction of the law. Where if you just look at it from one law, it's like it's not a big deal, it's a nothing burger. But if you look at the direction, there's 11 other states, I believe, in the country that have wholesaling laws. The U.S. government just passed some sort of law banning institutional investment to 350 single family or whatever houses. Like there's obviously the writings on the wall that our industry is being looked at a little bit more heavily than it used to be. And so the way we're doing things needs to change. And we have to be, I guess, an industry worthy of respect if we want, to be able to still operate. So that's my thoughts about it, at least.
Travis, what would you like to ask or say?
Um, yeah, I just had a quick question. Um, what is to stop, like theoretically, what is to stop someone from getting the disclosure, backdating the disclosure 14 days prior, getting it signed, and then getting the purchase agreement signed right immediately after that? Not saying I would do that. I'm just saying like it
So,
seems like there's not a lot of there's nothing to check on that. Sorry, go ahead.
Travis, you are like one of like probably 20 people who have said that to me. I believe personally, what is most important is for us to act ethically. Instead of backdating a disclosure, and I'm not talking about you, Travis. I know you well. Instead of backdating a disclosure, just do a double close, guys. Like, I get that mortgage lenders all the time are having you backdate docs to make their stuff regulatory and all of that. Don't do it. If I feel like what's really important is what Jake said is like, let's show this industry that we are good. Like, there are people out in every industry. Tyler commented like it's all industries. Legislators don't know anything about. Of course, it's all industries. They don't know every industry. They only know their limited experience. Um, but I think what's really important is like we should all be banding together to do things the right way. So don't backdate disclosures. Do a double close. It's costing you a smidge more money, maybe. That's it. I do think there's opportunity here. I have, like, I do think maybe in a good way, this kind of scares some of the unethical people out of here because they're already getting complaints constantly to the AG's office. Um, and so I think we should all be double closing stuff, getting things under contract reasonably. Um, and I do know some wholesalers who have said, Suzanne, we're going to start just reporting these people to the AG's office when we see stuff like that. Um, and they're doing unethical things, or we're meeting with clients for the second time now because they had it under contract. That we made an offer. They chose to go with the person offering 200, shopping it at 180. They backed off their price. Now they come back to us and we're telling them, you need to report these people. They're not doing the right practice. And now the Attorney General's office has a little more teeth behind them to look into those people. Um, and so I would love this to scare the people who are doing some unethical crap, because it does bother me in this industry. But I think that's every industry, right? Like every industry has the good people and the people who have ethics and the people who don't. Um, but to me, It's as simple as instead of doing an assignment, you double close. That's it. And I think it's good to be honest with your sellers. You can say like, hey, I don't know if I have enough capacity to take this rehab on right now. I mean, I might need to send it to a couple people so that I can give you the price that you want for this. Are you okay if I, bring a few people through? You're going to figure out how to talk to sellers. But I think it would be, you know, I I just think all you do is double close. You don't assign if you're instead of backdating the disclosure.
Well, one thing that I think is important, as real estate agents, we have an avenue for which to report other real estate agents who are acting
Mhm.
unethically. So, as an organizational structure, we have this thing that which we can do as wholesalers, as people who operate in this business, we need to be an industry that also helps self-regulate. So I think that when we do see unethical behavior, our only pathway as of right now is to report it to the Attorney General's office, and they're the ones that have teeth in the matter that can then follow it up. I know I'm about to say something that's a hot button topic, but gun laws don't prevent criminals from getting guns. They're still going to get guns, right? You're just trying to take away guns from law-abiding citizens who won't be able to defend themselves. So I think if we step up as an industry and begin self-reporting when it comes time, and maybe down the line there is this scrutiny of our industry further down, we can point to examples to where we said, no, 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 no. We've been trying to get these bad people out of the industry. So I think this is a time to where if we do, and I think, Bryson, you said it, I don't think this is going to stop the bad actors. To what you were saying, Travis, I don't think this is going to stop people from backdating a 14-day disclosure. I don't. I think those people are going to continue to do it. And you know why? Because those bad actors, they have people signing contracts that they don't know what's in the contracts. So what's going to stop them from adding this disclosure that's already previously backdated? And again, if we as an industry want to be looked at positively, I feel like this is our time to step up and begin self-reporting when we see bad actors. We really need to help weed those guys out.
Okay, Isaiah, then Tyler, then Andy.
So I was just thinking about it. Is it because of the lower income areas that they were kind of like, hey, something's a little off here? Because my
No.
also kind of concern is that what if they like start to trickle this a little more into like, oh, hey, well, there's something going on in the mid as well. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud at this time point.
It's not just low income areas. It's happening everywhere. I walked a deal in O'Fallon that it was happening on. Like it's not it's not low income.
Okay, okay. I was just wondering because I feel like those areas will probably get flagged the most, at least just looking at it from the outside.
Yeah. Tyler?
Well, do you see any use case for an assignment? If so, what so? Well, what's the case?
It's a good question. I think an assignment, so I have had people say they like the 14-day disclosure because it's like, so one big wholesaler in town that I respect, they said, let's say we buy 20 houses a month. 15 of them we know all day long we'll close on. Whether our buyer performs or not, we're going to close. But there's 5 to 7 that we're never going to close on. Like, we're just not. So we're going to offer the 14-day pre-contract, like pre-disclosure. They're never going to sign it. Some other person's going to come in and pretend like they're going to close on it and they won't. And then we're going to come back and be like, hey, just being really honest with people and trying to utilize it for those scenarios where they know they're never going to close on the house because of the area it's in or the price they need or something like that. Um, and trying to like they're going to always try to use that and then circle back to those people on deals they don't want to close on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can I
Well, it's
also,
surprising that it's assignment because I feel like how this came about is some people went through the process, they saw an assignment fee of how much someone was making off of them, or like, well, why am I getting that more on my off? right? So
Yeah.
double close, they wouldn't see that.
I do think that's part of it. I do think like sometimes it's like we were talking to someone and they're like, it was a wealthy family that went after us because they saw that fee and they're like, what? And it's like, well, this is the cost of doing business and making it convenient for you. And so I do think that, assignments do show you all of that.
There is a use case too of, and assignments are still allowed if you're assigning to an entity that you have ownership share in.
Yeah,
Or so let's say that,
Family.
yeah, let's say that you have a house that you lock up in your business name, but you want to keep it as and get an
as a
FHA
rental.
30-year fixed as a rental, and you want it in your personal name, you can still assign it to your personal name and there's no disclosure required. So there are still use cases for an assignment. And if you want, the assignments aren't dead. You just have to use that 14-day disclosure. So I'm a special case. I've done a handful of novations. Novations are in the purview of this bill. I'm still going to do novations because they're a valuable tool when they happen. And most of the time, a novation makes sense when the sellers have time. So that extra 14 days to me, like I'll be able to explain it. Hey, this is when I do novations, I explain to them everything that's going to happen. You and I I'm gonna buy this house from you at this price, but I'm gonna pay it to you at a future date. So we need to sign this disclosure to get started. And then once this 14 days is up, then we can actually put the contract together. Does that mean I might miss out on a potential deal? Yeah, but for all of my novations that I've done, I know that there's nobody else that's offering them what I'm able to offer them, so I know they'll still go with me.
I'd go with you, Casey.
What other thoughts or concerns do people have?
So is this only just Missouri, or is this statewide? That's I mean statewide, nationwide is taking place.
This is just Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay.
like Jake said, there are other wholesaling laws in 11 other states. But it's just a state by state.
Okay.
Seems
Trey
like an
said,
opportunity to educate the person you're doing business with.
Mhm.
Trey just said something. He said, if you build the rapport, guys, if you aren't building rapport with sellers, get out of the industry. Like, what are you even doing? Like, truly, if you're not digging into these people's situations to find out how you can help them, yeah, we're here to make money, but we should be here to help people. We provide a valuable service. So the rapport to me goes without saying. Sorry, I popped off on that, Trey. Like, I just. If you're not building rapport, you're probably not going to get the deal anyway. So you're
Exactly. Yes, that's why I said it because if you build a rapport and you talk to them all up front, then really it's not a big issue in the first thing. You're not trying to double swipe. You're not bait and switching them. You're building a rapport. You're telling them the process. You give them options.
Yep.
The, I think there's two things about this. I'm gonna do my best to like articulate if I can. One is like I do agree that there needs to be a disclosure, and I do agree that there needs to be some consumer protections for sellers and so forth. But also, I think this law is a little bit too restrictive. So I don't know. I'm going to coin this term. I don't know if it already exists, but like my company is like a hybrid company. We do wholesale. We also rehab and we rent properties. And a lot of times we don't know what we're going to do with that property until after we put it under contract. And wholesaling and assigning contracts is one way that we stay liquid, and it gives us flexibility inside of our business. So, like, I don't know, I think there's still use cases for wholesaling, but it's super putting 2 weeks ahead of that. If you know that you aren't going to be able to like this property isn't for you, and you want to wholesale it, like we tell people, if we know for sure, we always tell people like it's not for us. We're going to try to find you a buyer, this, that, and the other. But now, if you have to explain this disclosure to somebody, you just like if there's an expression, it's like if you're what is it called? If you're explaining, you're not selling, something like that. Um, you're probably not gonna get the deal at the end of the day, and it kind of sucks because if you're like a pretty ethical person trying to genuinely help somebody out in their situation, now you just like they call 3 people, everybody's a wholesaler that assigns properties. Now that person's kind of in a bad spot. So I think there's some short-sightedness on this law for sure. But yeah, I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, that's fine. We can just explain the disclosure away. I think they'll just go call the next company because people want certainty.
And normally when people are calling us, they're in a distressed situation. They're not
Yeah.
just calling us because like an event has always occurred. And to know that you have to have a 14-day pre-disclosure and then you get it under contract and then title's typically about 3 weeks. Now they have a situation, they're highly motivated. They're not going to wait 5 weeks to get the cash. They're going to just go with someone else. Because normally there's something time sensitive.
Yeah.
There's a pain point that's occurring. Yeah,
And I feel like
Travis. Oh, go Jake. Sorry.
I was just saying, I also feel like you lose credibility a little bit if you have to put a 2 week disclosure in front of it, you know. So
Like, why are you doing that?
yeah, it's like you buy houses, but you don't buy houses. I'm confused.
Say in
Travis.
that case, then you just like tell them the law, like, and actually show it to them in that case.
Yeah.
Everybody's just going to start holding on to every single property, and we're all going to build generational wealth through time instead of quick money, right?
Need quick money to build long money.
No, you just borrow it.
That's fair. My question, what was it? I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Oh, what if, I mean, so my thought is like, what if the foreclosure date is in 12 days and we have to give this 14-day disclosure? I mean, I guess the double close would still
Exactly.
just fix that problem, right? I mean, okay, never mind. Dumb question.
I think the easiest way to not complicate this is if you know you can close on it, even if you can't wholesale it, you get it under contract and you plan to double close. In worst case, you have to close on it. Um, if
Just,
your buyer backs out. I do think there's a large opportunity for solid buyers to wholesalers to do really well. If you have gotten stuff under contract from wholesalers and then you back out, you might have a harder time right now. If you're newer and you don't have rapport in this industry, you're going to need to figure out how to get some rapport. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for the solid buyers who have performed, even if you just buy a couple houses a year from wholesalers. If you have a good reputation of, you know, your numbers, you know, your offer, you're not going to renegotiate. I think there's a lot of power for you. And now is the time to be reaching out to all your wholesaler contacts to let them know, like, you're still solid, you're still buying. So I think that's people have a strong advantage, or if you have, you know, like a local business coach, like I was talking to Dustin Hogue. I think Dustin Hogue students have a lot of good uh, ability with this because if he's coaching them correctly and they're listening to him and making the right offers, they'll do really well with this. But I think if you just kind of look at a bunch of houses and have renegotiated a lot, you might have a little bit more of a pain point when you're making offers starting on August 28th. That's when this law comes into effect. So just to be clear, it is not in effect right now. It starts August 28th, and any contracts that you get under contract before August 28th don't fall under this law. So you can still assign your hearts away on anything you get accepted by a seller by August 27th. So this doesn't come into effect until then. So I do want to be clear on that.
I'm curious, what has anybody else talked to their title companies? I know, so True Title and John Banjak, they have their opinion, but it's not clear
Yeah.
about what other title companies' opinions are. Does anybody have any insight on that? Anybody talk to their title companies about this law?
I will say from what I've heard, a lot of title companies haven't paid attention. Um, I have heard that some title companies are going to start requiring transactional funding,
Yeah.
meaning, you know, right now, most title companies, for the most part, if they know you, they'll dry fund the double close, meaning you're the wholesaler, you do a double close, you have your A to B contract, and then you have your B to C contract. The title company will dry fund that, meaning they'll use the end buyer's funds to fund the seller. I have heard that some title companies won't be doing that with this or are thinking about that. So people will need some transactional funds to literally just fund that B transaction, if that makes sense. Everyone know what I mean there by that?
So pretty much you got to bring money to the table if you just got your property as a wholesaler.
If you're going to double close, you've got to fund the initial transaction.
Oh, that's going to suck.
So it's not every title company is doing that. So I think whichever title company you work with, you need to be talking to them and asking them, A, if they've looked into it, B, what their thoughts are, and C, what they're going to require for double close.
Or just close with true title and then you don't have that issue.
And faster funds would be willing to fund that, right?
And we do transactional funding. Yeah, we do transactional funding. So if you have concerns about that, you can always give Casey a call and him or I could talk to you about that. But it's a 1 point charge with a minimum of $500. So
Can I ask how, I'm not a wholesaler, but I do buy frequently from wholesalers. So how does that affect the buyer? How does all of this affect me?
So I think the way it affects you biggest is I think we're still waiting on clarity on can deals be blasted if you don't own them and you don't have this pre-disclosure signed. So if a wholesaler is trying to double close, if it shows intent by them blasting, there may not be the blasts that go out unless they close on them and own them, which means they have to be buying them really deep or they're not going to be a great deal because they're going to now have holding costs on that. So it would be
What
good
does blasting mean? What is, I don't know some
like
of
the
these
emails that you get, the
Okay.
text messages that you get saying, I have a deal. I have this nice 2 bed, 1 bath rental in Afton. I have all of those things. If they're not closing on them, I don't know if they can send them out to everyone. So it would be opportunistic of you guys if you're buying from wholesalers to call the wholesalers you buy from and say, what are your thoughts on this wholesaling bill? What are you doing to change your processes? I'm a really solid buyer. Please make sure because some of them might just do direct reach outs. Like, I'm just going to send this to a few people. Um, does that make sense what I'm saying? And I don't know. I'm not a wholesaler, so I don't know if that's how they're gonna interpret this or not. But I think that's the biggest question mark that still hasn't really been answered.
Is Buyers Club or anybody on this call, is anybody thinking about advocating for this? Because I'm telling you, the majority of the houses I buy, I do not buy MLS. I buy through wholesalers. I hadn't really thought about it from my perspective and how that was gonna affect me with what I do. And it is apparently.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what it would look like to put something together for advocacy. I think it's just more like, again, I think it's something as simple as like if a new law ever comes down the pipe, that we would be notified and be consulted. I don't think we need to set up like a whole lobby, inside of Jefferson City. I think that'd be too cumbersome. The how behind that would just be like a huge waste of time currently. But just for starters, I think, I don't know, just kind of like a culture of ethics inside the investment community and building something around that. Me and some other people are talking about how that might be achieved. That answers your question, Marquita.
It does. It does. I also want to just put in that I would like to be involved in that because they need to understand it from not just an investor standpoint, but that really affects what I do for the non-for-profits with housing homeless people. So they need to understand that when they start messing around with this, that means my rental prices have to go up and I'm no longer going to be able to do what I do. I can't
Okay.
house people for less money if I can't get wholesale houses. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have to basically buy houses that the people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, they don't have a pot to piss in. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna put it out there. And
Marquette, that's the thing is like a lot of people look at things as like just the way they are, but there's second, third order consequences that a lot of times, like I never thought about that. The situation that you just brought up. That's a second, third order consequence of laws. And two, like I was talking to Matt Becker today. Those that don't know, I'm sure most of you guys do, but he's very involved in the political scene in Missouri as far as real estate is concerned. And
And Matt Becker with Magnolia. There is another Matt Becker agent I'm
yeah,
working with right now,
Matthew
so
Becker.
just to be very clear.
Okay. Yeah. So, so yeah, I would talk to him, and he. How do you, Suzanne? You've talked to him before. How would you characterize his view on this? I think it's a little too heavy-handed. I think that's how I would say he's looking at it in terms of like the 2 week disclosure. So he was talking about trying to amend the law, basically. So whenever the law is passed and there's second, third order consequences that weren't considered, and they're deleterious to the way businesses ran, then sometimes lawmakers will go back and amend the law. So there might be a path for that as well. We'll see.
well, I definitely like, if you do get something together, I would like to be on that. And I know Suzanne, you said you didn't think that the Urban League and LRA has anything to do with this, but I think you're wrong. So I'm going to double back around and have a conversation with them because I had not thought about this from a buyer's perspective until this call. The only reason why I got on this call was because of what you were discussing. And I wanted to make sure that you guys had heard what I heard. And I am hearing it all through my industry, all through the non-for-profits. We're all talking about this.
Yeah, I just know, Marquita, this law doesn't have anything to do with slow flips. I know the slow flip practice and how it's under scrutiny. But I would also say, just like wholesaling, there are some really good slow flippers out there. There are people out there giving people the opportunity to own houses that never had the opportunity before. But there is the other side of that. I think in every industry, there's the good and the bad. And but this just affects wholesaling.
Well, I'm going to tell you though that you need to know, because I did sit in on a meeting and I was in that meeting and they told us that the people that they're actually scrutinizing the most are investors outside of Missouri. I'm not saying that none in Missouri are going to get caught up in it, but they're really going after, the Urban League is really going after two specific investors. Because I guess they've really taken advantage of some people and sold them houses that were condemned and scheduled to be torn down and then wasn't honest about it. So
That is that in reference to like the land bank part of the bill? Is that what you're referring to, Marquita?
Oh,
I
that's
don't
true.
I don't know what I'm referring to. All I know is I got called into a meeting 2 weeks ago with the Urban League where they talked about this, that they were going to start going after investors, specifically targeting low income people, the ones that get on Facebook and say, you can buy a house for $656 a month, with 2,500 down. Specifically, that was the deal they showed us, on the TV when they were talking to us about it. And they said they were really going to start going after wholesalers for that reason, because they felt like they were targeting, because of the increase in rents. These people are seeing these things and they're diving in, and then once they get in the house, they can't live there because they can't get occupancy, and they can't get occupancy because the house is condemned.
Yeah, that's going to be
Marquita, yeah, I think that's a different situation, but it does shine a light on the necessity of like not just saying like what is a good practice for wholesalers, but also investors of all kind. And I think too, the Urban League is calling slow flippers wholesalers. That's not. I wouldn't. I think they're conflating terms there a little bit.
They absolutely are, because that is the phrase that they used.
Yeah, they don't. So that's another, and that's another point of like why this advocacy matters. Is like so many people don't understand what is what, and they're just like, oh, you're an investor, and you're doing something bad, and I think that there's room for education. Let's put it that way.
I agree. And I believe that there's even more room for education. And Rachel Mendoza, you and I need to talk, because I know that one of my non-for-profits has been trying to reach out to you, because I encourage them to do so. That's all I'm going to say because I don't want to get off topic. But I do think, even though this may not, maybe they are targeting right now wholesalers, but I also think that you're right. We do have to play a part in advocating what's right within our industry because it's gonna affect us all. It is.
I also have a question too. So, and it's just kind of wild instance. So, what are the chances that this could be pulled back and they're like, hey, this needs to be under review? Like if somebody just came and stepped in, or is this like, hey, this is solid, this is going forward no matter what?
It was signed on Monday. It's happening. And it's because I think what is important is this is part of a larger bill. And it's happening now. It will not be changed.
80% of the
Okay.
bill is land banking.
Yeah. So it's like, that's why
It's
I said
land
it's
what?
like an ornament on a Christmas tree. This is one small piece to a much larger bill.
Okay.
And
Is there
it's
something
happening. It will not be changed. It cannot be amended. It's passed Missouri House, Missouri Senate, and is signed by the governor.
okay.
Suzanne, did you say what bill it was?
It's the land bank bill. I wish I
S,
could not tell you a single thing about the land bank bill.
if you look up SB 973, if you just Google it, you can read more about it. No one here is an attorney, and nor do I think you want to listen to an attorney talk about this.
Yeah, that is good. I mean, I feel it. This is everywhere. We are not attorneys. We are not giving legal advice.
Yeah.
And this bill, I don't know if we talked about it earlier, but this bill does affect leasebacks, and maybe that's what Marquita was talking about earlier too, because there are different things that affect, you do have to have disclosures for any leasebacks that you put in the contract as well.
Question, what is a lease back? Just so that way I can have this for context, because I never heard that before.
Basically, when you're renting back the house to the current owner. So you buy it from them and then you're gonna lease the house to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, so kind of like you're becoming the renter and then they can
They
live
are
in the
becoming
house.
your renter. They're selling you the
They become
house.
your tenants.
They go from a
Got it.
homeowner to a tenant in their property.
Okay.
That we didn't get into that during the
No.
meeting. It was all focused on assignments and double closing, but that is actually something that in our business we've done a couple times where we had a family go through they were going through a divorce and they needed to lease back the house for a couple weeks before they could find the next place. We did that, so that would be something that we need to understand better. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, that is true. That's probably something that you would need to just close on and own while that happens. I didn't think about that. I haven't thought about that at all.
It's in those documents, Suzanne,
Uh-huh.
that maybe would be
Yeah, that's
worthwhile for us to share at some
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Is there
And the
anything
other important
else?
thing is that was said is this is an unwaivable thing. So, when we were in our room together, people were like, well, we'll just have them sign something that says this pre 14-day disclosure doesn't apply. And it's unwaivable. Just like mechanics liens, you can't like have a contractor waive their lien rights. You cannot waive their rights to this 14-day pre-disclosure.
Yeah, I think as a general contracting practice, you can't out contract a law or a statute. So I mean, you can't write it into the contract that we're going to waive this law that we agreed to it. That doesn't work.
I wanted to point out something that Matt Becker also mentioned that when he was speaking at Buyers Club was that the other states that have tried this, most of them have immediately pulled it back and repealed it or something similar. But the way Missouri is doing it is we would have to go to another vote in order to repeal it. So we're kind of stuck with it for a while. So
Well,
unfortunately, it sounds like if it goes poorly, we're not going to be able to remove it very easily.
Matt was specifically talking about that for taxes. That's like a very big thing. If Missouri passes no state tax, like income tax, that would be like very, very, very bad because we
Gotcha.
can't just be like, whoop. Whereas this is so minor, but you could
You're right.
amend
You're right.
it in a few months. But yeah, Matt was specifically there talking about the voting no on
4 and 5.
4 and 5. I
Yeah.
am not a
That's
Missouri
right.
resident, so I don't ask me.
Sorry. Ignore what I just said. Sorry. You're right.
Uh, But in August, do vote no to 4 and 5. Read up on them. It sounds good, but it's not. Know the consequences if you live in Missouri. All right. Any other quick last minute thoughts before we wrap up? Because we are almost to 1. All right. Well, I appreciate your guys' time and all the conversation. We will continue to see where this goes. It might be our topic again the third or fourth week in August on Buyers Club Live if we learn more, there's more changes or anything like that. But until then, talk to wholesalers, see what they're going to do, talk to your title company, and just see how everything goes. All right.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Yeah, thank you
thank
guys. See you
you.
later. Oh, I'm sorry, real quick. Buyers Club this week. Brad Evans is talking. It's Thursday night. Doors open at 6. We'll start at 6:45. And Brad was here yesterday practicing, and it should be a really good talk. So he's going to talk about not just flooring, but he's actually going to talk about how he's built up his awesome rental portfolio. So would love to see you all Thursday night in our office.
That is tomorrow for anyone
Tomorrow
not
night.
knowing the day of the week,
Tomorrow
and we
night.
have a
I don't even know.
barbecue.
Today's Wednesday. Tomorrow.
I was gonna say I can make tomorrow. I can't make Thursday, unfortunately. Dang
All
it.
All
right.
right. See y'all
Thanks,
Everyone.
tomorrow.
everyone.
All right,
Bye.
see ya.